Lunch break. I'm Tanya Rivero. The armed protest at an Oregon wildlife preserve is now in its fifth day. The occupation of a federal building on the property is being led by Ammon Bundy, the son of a rancher involved in a similar standoff with federal authorities in 2014. Bundy has called on others throughout the country to join his protest, which appears to be over the federal government owning and controlling too much land. But all this brings to light the growing militias and anti-federal government sentiment in the U.S. Former Homeland Security Department senior intelligence analyst Daryl Johnson has followed this issue closely for years, and he joins us now from Washington. Welcome, Daryl. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So, Daryl, you spent over 15 years studying domestic terror groups as a government analyst, and you were one of the first to note the rise of these anti-federal government extremists. Looking at this group in Oregon, how would you categorize them?
Well, basically, they're pandering to the militia movement. So we have members of, the Oath Keepers and 3 Percenters, as well as the militia movement. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of anti-government extremists.
Now, I want to play a soundbite from Ammon Bundy from earlier this week. Listen to this.
If government is being that fear and intimidation, that it needs to be checked and balanced. And if other government entities will not do that, then it becomes the responsibility and duty of the people to remove that intimidation and fear.
So, Daryl, is this language you've heard before?
Oh, yeah. The people talk about a tyrannical government and, a government that's infringing on their rights. These are things meant to, pump up the fear factor and to get people motivated and, hopefully get some new recruits.
Now, this beef with the government over land in the West has been brewing since essentially the 70s, correct? What makes it wax and wane?
Well, what brought it to the forefront, within the past couple of years was Ammon Bundy's father, Cliven Bundy, had a long-standing dispute with the Bureau of Land Management out in his ranch in Bunkerville, Nevada. And this all came to a head in April of 2014 when they had a court order for the Bureau of Land Management rangers to go out and seize some of Cliven Bundy's cattle, which had been illegally grazing on federal lands. Mm-hmm. Cliven Bundy owes hundreds of thousands of dollars to the federal government in grazing fees, which he refuses to pay. Mm-hmm. And so this led to this confrontation last April.
Now, we did see a downtick in the popularity of some of these anti-federal government militia groups after the Timothy McVeigh bombing, when his links to an anti-government group emerged. So why do you think small militias around the country have risen again in recent years?
Yeah, exactly as you said. Right after 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing, the terrorism aspects of Timothy McVeigh's ties to the militia really scared people out of the militia movement. We had 22 states that passed paramilitary or laws banning paramilitary training. Mm-hmm. People just got bored with this revolution that people kept talking about that never materialized. So what resuscitated this movement was a combination of the 2008 economy collapse as well as the election that brought in a Democratic African-American president. So a lot of these groups, which center a lot of their beliefs on the Second Amendment rights, view a Democratic administration as a threat to those rights.
All right. Now, looking at the standoff in Oregon, it's now on its fifth day. And despite strong words from the sheriff there asking the protesters to leave peacefully, the government and other politicians appear reluctant to do too much. Why is that? Do you think we could actually have another Waco or Ruby Ridge on our hands here?
Well, hopefully not. In this situation, I think law enforcement has learned from those past standoffs, so you can see the approach that they're taking is not very confrontational. It's more of a let's wait them out type of approach. So I don't think this will escalate, but it could drag on for some time.
So in your experience, Daryl, is that what you think is going to happen here?
Definitely. We're going to wait them out. Hopefully they've gotten their message across and they'll listen to the local sheriff and the people and eventually leave.
Let's certainly hope it ends peacefully. Daryl Johnson, thank you so much for that.